Hello everyone, Grandmaster Nikita.MESHKOVS is again with you, and in today's episode I would like to present you the game against the highest rated opponent over the board I played this year. It happened almost 2 months ago during the World Olympiad in Budapest, when Latvia faced very strong chess country Spain. And I played on the second board against Anton Guijarro David. Very strong player, current number 54 with rating 2672.8. Very strong player, and in general, this match was probably one of the toughest opposition we had during Olympiad. Because on each board, every single player from Latvia was clear underdog, but at the same time, I think we performed very well, and we were very close to actually maintain the balance in the match. So before we jump to the game, just a quick information about Chessify platform. I'm using it mostly for analyzing games, preparing my openings, working on my openings for writing chess courses, and also Chessify offers very modern tools like Lichess database, correspondence chess player database, and powerful engines. So using a promo code MESHKOVS20, you will get a 20% discount for the first purchase, and referral link is in the description. Check it out, and let's move to the game. So, just real quick information about preparation for the game. I checked my opponent. I see that David plays pretty much every single opening, and I have no idea what to do, and in this case I make decision to play knight f3 and d4, very stable setup, and I'm ready to face g6, e6, d5, c5, pretty much any move, and he plays e6, I play c4, and he immediately plays bishop b4. So I was like, okay, so this is Boga Indian, okay, probably I have to play bishop d2, and he plays c5. So, and this is the first fun moment in this match, because this is exactly the way how grandmasters tend to troll each other, and probably most of the players did not even recognize that something is wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was a troll, because this c5 setup opening choice was very popular by one of the brightest Latvian players. So Alvis Vitoliņš was a huge ambassador of this line with black, so he played it 16 times according to my chess database, from 1975 to 1988 he played it 16 times, and at least officially, and pretty much I think that my opponent decided to go here into this line for a reason. Let's put it this way. Yeah? So, but yeah, worth mentioning that I myself played this type of structure at the very least several times, and I knew how to react, so it did not come as a huge surprise to me. So the point of this line is that trading on b4 is very critical, and now b4 pawn prevents knight activity, so I can't really finish my development so easily, and potentially black has quite good perspectives on the queen side, pushing their 3 3 pawns against 2. So it's some kind of majority, but at the same time, white can't really use their pawn majority in the center that easily. So I played knight d2. He plays short castle, g3, b6, bishop g2, bishop b7. Also very similar in this type of position where bishops are looking towards each other, and play short castle. He plays a5. Pretty much nothing much happened so far because right now both sides are working on their development and placing pieces on the best squares. So I'm trying not to have any contact, any touch with these pawns at the moment. So I play rook c1, he plays d6, and I play rook e1. Just solidifying my position and improving every single piece I can before having direct contact, and then preparing some e4 ideas, maybe. And Anton plays queen c7 in this line. However, when I analyzed the game, I was a bit surprised that this very rare position happened only twice in history of chess. And so one time it was our game, 2024, but before even I was born, in 1987, Vito Lynch already played it with black against Kuzmin. And in that game, Vito Lynch played knight bd7. White decided to undermine the pawn structure because knight can't really support the pawn anymore. And they played this type of a structure where black has backward pawn and white has some prospects to attack it on the b file. So yeah, it's impressive to see that this position happened many years ago. And so queen c7 was played instead, and I played e4. And the point of this setup for black is that they are trying to have this control on the dark squares, and they're preparing to meet e4 with e5. So it's sort of a blockade. They're fighting for the dark squares, and especially for the c5 square. So actually I was surprised because I checked Vito Lynch games pretty much that he played more than 30 years ago, and some of them more than 40 years ago. So it's actually quite impressive that he invented this setup in a pre-computer, pre-engine era, such a long time ago, and it's still usable, and it's still very fine approach for black strategically. So it just shows us that great masters of the past, like Vito Lynch was. He was a 7-time Latvian champion and a very strong player, played for the national team and so on. And I do believe that one of the best games he played was against Vladimir Tukmakov in 1979. I'll add a link in the description. Feel free to check it because it's really a positional masterpiece, and it was very impressive to see how he grins 2600 grandmaster in such a dominant fashion. Nevertheless, let's go back, and so after e5, probably the worst what you can do is to play d5, because then c5 square is very easy to access for the knights, and bishop goes back to c8 and then transposes either to d7 or maybe g4. Anyways, black has very great control over the dark squares and potential to play on the both wings. So instead, you have to keep this tension in the center and consider fighting for the weak light squares like f5 and d5. I played knight h4, but besides knight h4, there was an interesting idea that was pointed out by the engine. I could have played knight f1, a very interesting maneuver, very common maneuver in this type of structures, to relocate it to d5 or f5 via e3. But I did not really consider it at this moment of the game, because I thought that this pawn hangs in the air. However, you can sacrifice it for a positional compensation. So, for instance, after knight e4, we just continue, stick with our plan and bring the knight to probably d5 square mainly. And then we have way better development, and all the pieces are centralized and coordinated very well. However, if black captures with the bishop, then we can exchange. We can sacrifice an exchange and play knight h4, and we have super strong bishop, and enemy pieces are hanging in the air. So I have no clue what's happening after f5, knight takes f5, knight takes f2, and queen f3. Some insane complicated stuff. Knight a6 takes rook a8. That was suggested by the engine. I have two minor pieces. Black has centralized pieces and very complicated sharp stuff. But yeah, interesting to know that there are some resources, such resources in the position. So after e5, I played knight h4 with the idea that I never really afraid of sacrificing. It's not even a sacrifice, because as soon as black captures on d4, I get my knight to d4 almost automatically, and then I can transfer it either to d5, b5 or f5, and yeah, then just targeting this backward pawn on d6. That's an easy target for white, and for that reason, after knight h4, no one really cares and just plays knight c6, you know, because black wants to provoke me to take on e5 or play d5, and in this case, in both cases, black will get the c5 square, and it's not the way how you want to play the structure, so you want to keep this tension in the center. And okay, now there's nothing much to do in the center, and my opponent takes control over the f5 square very logically, but at the same time g6 weakens, significantly weakens his dark squares. And I play queen d2 with the idea to still maybe consider knight f5 followed by queen h6 or queen g5. So maybe I can transfer my knight from h4 to e3 and then to d5. So all of that kind of ideas I had during the game. He plays queen e7, sort of prepares against these ideas. I play queen g5 once again, trying to play knight f5, and he plays knight d7. That was probably the first inaccuracy in the game, because I traded queens and then started playing against this construction. This construction is pretty vulnerable because knight is on the defensive side, while my knight on f3 is a bit stronger, and it's attacking piece. So he has to deal with this pressure against the e5 pawn, and he played rook fd8. So at this moment, I thought about winning a pawn. I can do that simply by capturing rook takes d7 and d takes e5, takes. But you always have to understand that as soon as you win some material, you're usually there could be a way how to allow some counterplay. And in this case, it's very clear that black gets significant counterplay against these pawns. And so finally, if I lose both pawns, then this A and B pawns of my opponent could run very quickly. So that was definitely not something what I want to do. And for that reason, I played rook cd1, keeping this tension and sort of preparing this idea of bishop takes d7 followed by e takes d4, d takes e5. And actually this rook cd1 move worked really good because my opponent made another this time mistake, I would say, because he plays knight f6, attacking pawn on e4, but I collect pawn on e5, and he takes on e4. That was a moment where I got my only chance in this game, and it wasn't easy to figure out, but it was possible. And well, I can't really blame myself too much because it was not obvious, and probably this technical job was one of the most difficult elements in chess that exists in general. But yeah, I'm not really satisfied with my time management here because I played this move quite quickly. And I played the move knight d7, and after that, black was completely fine. So instead, after bishop takes e4, I could have traded rooks, and then, guess what, not go further forward with the knight, but instead I had to go back with the knight to g4. And the point is that this construction is very shaky as well, so black has to capture, and then I take with a rook on e4, which means that both knights are under attack, and well, the point is that still it's not very easy, because even after this sequence of moves, if I would find, I would still had to react precisely after king f8 move, because only one capture works very good here, and you have to take with a bishop, because then after f5 you take, and probably just retreat back, solidifying your structure, and you have an extra pawn, so then in a long run you should convert that extra pawn. But if you take with a rook, then after rook d2, even having an extra piece, all of white pieces are very far away, and black collects both pawns for sure. And it's actually, according to the engine, it's a balanced position. So, and I would be very afraid to play like this when time trouble comes closer, and you know, it's very, very risky. So yeah, I played knight d7, and after this move, black sort of had no issues, because my opponent is a very good calculator, and he knows how to deal with the pressure. So he found a very, very strong move, king g7, and then he found bishop c6 move. So the point of this move is that yes, I collect, it's a free knight, come on, but the thing is that he takes, and then he goes back to f8. And if I grab another knight, then after king e7, probably I'm not even doing good, and I should lose the game. So yeah, at this point I understood that all I did, all the pressure that was in the middle game, it's just gone, and I have to retreat with a rook, even though I have some pressure here against some pin, and also keeping an eye on the b6 pawn, but it's nothing much. Like I don't have any direct attack, and yeah, at this point I just improve position of my pieces, but he prepares this idea of untangle with supporting the b6 pawn followed by knight c5 on the next move. I'm trying to prevent that. He comes closer with a king, and if my knight would be somewhere here on d4, then knight c6 would be a family fork, and that's game over, but it's too far away, and I can't do much. So for that reason, he just neutralizes my pressure. I'm trying, to keep pieces on the board and hope for something. But yeah, grandmasters, such a high level grandmasters, they are not allowing you to get a chance by making a necessary mistake on the spot. So I was going here and there and tried to trade on my terms, and I actually got it, but this is completely nothing because now he gets his rook out. And at the very least, the best what I found was to relocate my knight from d6 with a bit of dynamics, hitting the king, then hitting the pawn, and then another pawn on b6. And after b5, I had to go back. So b takes c4, knight takes c4, and rook d1 was move 40. So I play king g2, we get half an hour, and my opponent plays a4. And okay, now we're in an endgame where pretty much everything is very balanced, but interesting psychological moment. I saw by my opponent's behavior that he's sort of optimistic about his chances because he was, just looking towards me and focusing on the board, and I knew that it makes no sense to offer for a draw, especially as I see that we have to win somewhere because of the match situation. And I continued playing on, but objectively I understood that I should be focusing on the way how to secure a draw, and I tried to deal with his initiative by counter-attacking the b4 pawn. That's the only pawn I can attack. And he pushes it forward with trade, and I come closer with a king, and then closer and closer, and then, play f4 to secure control over both pawns on the second rank. He pushes g4, okay, I'm coming closer with a king, he throws a check, I go back, and yeah, the only important thing was to make sure that rook e2 is not working, because after taking knight a4, even though I can't protect the b2 pawn, but king runs pretty quickly, and I collect the b3 pawn, and he can't do much because e3 square is taken by my knight. So he doesn't have any knight e3, knight f1, and it means that I should be able to run with the king relatively quickly, like knight f3, king c3, this or that way, but it just ends up with 3 against 3 on the one side, and it's a clear draw. But instead he still kept some of the chances alive, and it wasn't actually easy at all, because it seems like, okay, why do you want to play this position even longer? It's just 3 against 3 on the one side and then 1 against 1. But he has some space on both wings, and I have to be careful not to miss some trades, and then he can sacrifice a knight, and maybe some pawns on one or another side could be very unpleasant to stop. And for that reason, yeah, I try to control the key squares, and then bring my rook to the third rank. Rook c2 is another trick you can't take, because then pawn promotes. So, and I don't want to trade this pawn against this pawn, because then I have to deal again with all kind of h4 or rook h3, rook g3. No, thank you. So. But luckily here, it works well, and I calculated that I can create counterplay against his king. So he plays rook d2, another very unpleasant move, and I can't go to e4, for instance, because then there is another check, and oopsie, it's actually a mate. So king c4 apparently is the best move, And okay, then I go back. And even though I lost the pawn, but here my plan was to play against his king because his pieces are very far away. And yeah, after he plays f6, my pieces coordination is very well, so I play f5, and then after king goes to g5, I try to create play against the king on the using the last rank. So actually I had a very serious mating threat, rook g8, rook g6. So let's say if he makes some stupid move like rook e2, let's imagine. So then I check, oops, sorry. I check, king h7, knight d5, and it seems that this knight f6 followed by rook g8 mate is unstoppable. So for that reason, he plays rook f2, and it stops my idea because after I go rook g8, I can't really go anywhere with the knight because he has this rook f5 idea. So yeah, we were down to some seconds, and at this point, I just decided to repeat position, and it ended in a draw. So after rook h8, we shake hands, and the game was over. So unfortunately, we lost the match because of only one loss in the match. Other 3 games ended in a draw, as you can see. But actually, from chemistry of the team, of all 4 players, I think we performed probably the best. Speaking about all Olympiad, it was a great team spirit, and everyone fight, and all of us had fighting chess, fighting game. Well, it happens. You lose as a team, you win as a team, and there's no need to blame anyone because all of us were in those shoes where you lose or sometimes you win. So that's completely fine, and that's the beauty of the team competitions. I enjoy that way more than individual events. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching this episode, and see you guys soon.